Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, including the stuff from Lost Origin, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code OmniPoke. For today's video, I want to be showing you guys a project that I've just begun. I'm at a point now where I think it's usable for a lot of people, but it's something that I'm going to be improving on as we go as just a background project for a long time now, because I feel like this is just an awesome resource to have for players who want to dive back into older formats and get playing really online, which is really awesome. I do want to give David Hockman a lot of credit here. They made a big Twitter post about their unlimited format version of this idea, which is essentially using the amazing Cube Koga website, which, by the way, I absolutely adore just because I love Cube anyway, but we're using it for a completely different functionality here. And that is to archive other formats. In this case, David has done an amazing job showcasing one of his favorite pastimes, the unlimited format, which is where you can literally just play anything from every era of the game. And it is a horrible format, by the way, where most of the deck's win conditions are on the first turn of the game. That's why you can see a Sableye here, because it allows you to be guaranteed player one. But if you're both Sableyes in front of each other, it's then a coin flip to see basically who wins it on the spot, outside of very low odds of whiffing your win condition. But David has made a full tier list here, as well as an explanation of the big cards in the format with images, with links to these sorts of cards, and goes into great detail about how the unlimited format works essentially. And the best part here is if you go up to the top, you can see decks over here. So David has made 37 of the decks that are all in this tier list here. And we can see here, he's even ranked them based on the tier list. So if you go alphabetical, you can see it all in order of what he thinks are the best decks of the format, and he's a pretty good authority on the matter. And you have all of these options to choose from in terms of decks. So if we were just to, for an example, show you what is probably the best deck in the unlimited format, we can see just on Cube Koga here, we can make it easier to see literally every single card. And for those who don't know, this is like hand destruction combo when you then stack the top of their deck and then you knock them out just with like laser and attacking with overconfident over a couple of turns. But you completely control, you basically put your opponent's hand down to 0 and you chip ice axe them so they have no actions to do. So it's basically you soloing the opponent when you get to go first with your Sableye. So it's a horrible deck to come up against, certainly. But the concept is here. You can see the deck list right here. And I think the most important thing about why Cube Koga itself is the best place to do something like this, rather than just having Google Docs or pictures taken of the physical deck lists or whatnot, the difference that Cube Koga makes is massive. It's simply this export button here, where straight away it can now be exported to PTCGO. Obviously, it wouldn't work for the unlimited format because there are plenty of cards that aren't in the PTCGO client, but more modern stuff can be exported straight to PTCGO. We've got Tabletop Simulator that can be found on Steam, which is something that we've used on the channel previously for content with decks that are new, and we haven't physically got the cards yet. We use Tabletop Sim on the channel. There's Untap.in, which is another great way to play Pokemon online, and you don't need any of the cards. Once again, Tabletop and Untap, you don't need any of these cards in any form. You can just play for free. Well, Tabletop you have to purchase, but then every time you play on Tabletop it's free from then on. And you've even got a proxy printer option as well, so if you want to print some of these decks out and just sort of test out a format without having to fork out for lots of older cards, there's that option as well. So I've taken David's amazing idea, and by the way, he's done it way better than me so far, where he, for every single deck, like I've just clicked onto this exact deck list, he's once again gone into great detail about the key cards in the deck, what the combo's trying to go for, what tech cards potentially can go into the deck, because you can make your own decks here as well, and what you can do against Spiritomb, which is like the other main sort of archetypes or core of archetypes in the unlimited format. So you have all of this scope that you can use within the client, which is absolutely insane. You can see here all the cards, and you can click onto the cards and see exactly what the card does as well. So there's lots of things you can do here, lots of interaction that can go on with this all in Cube Koga, which is insane. So this was the initial idea. David's unlimited format option is on Cube Koga for anyone to search. If you literally just go up to cubes at the top of Cube Koga and you were to type in unlimited, you can see straight away David's is the first one here. So that's amazing. So what have I done? Well, I've gone for, here's Limitless by the way, I've gone for making previous Worlds formats archives as well. So at the moment I've kept it pretty traditional as to I've just taken the lists that were played at the time of that year at Worlds, and I've just put those deck lists on for each year. So you can see it starts in 04 for the Nintendo Worlds format era. I might be going backwards in time as well at a later date, but you can see 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, all the way up to 15, and all the way up to 2022. So if you're going to see 2022, I have 16 decks currently input here. We have literally the first place list from Andre. We have Mew. We have some Palkias. One's a quad VIP. One's a regular VIP. There's the Jolteon build from Daichi. We've got Ice Rider Palkia. We've got Arceus Aggron. We've got the Ross Cawthon's Zard. We've got Reggie's. We've got Palkia Jolteon. We've got Arc Intel. We've got Mewtwo V Union. We've got the Arc Slacking that was in Porto Alegre, the regionals just after Worlds, which is still in this format. So again, just an art. Literally, this is a 1-to-1. I've just taken the list and plonked it straight in here. Also, the second place Arc Dura. So this gives people, obviously we all look at these things right now and we know the format, we know the meta. It's just gone by. But in 5 years' time, there could be more and more people coming into the game and just wanting to revisit this format, and they may not have that same context that we have today, and we can immediately just jump to here and see what some of the best performing decks were, just like you could on Limitless or whatever else. But the difference is you can jump into the deck straight away, have a nice visual of them. I'll be adding to an overview, of course. At the moment it's all very bare bones and basic, but you can see the exact same list here, and then you can go exporting it and start playing it yourself. I think that's the key differential of why it's so huge on Cube Koga, which is just amazing. And I do have a small overview here, just giving the first turn rules, the standings link to Limitless, as well as a link to the most successful decks in the format, because again, it's a different Limitless link now, but it's looking at this specific format and showing that Palkintel was the most successful point earner in this set of formats. And also, if you were to do the other filters for top 8 finishes and earnings and whatnot, it's all Palkintel being busted. So yeah, obviously this was made very possible by Limitless TCG for the majority of modern formats, of course, but also PTCG Archive for a lot of the old World Championships as well. You can see they date from 04 to 2013, and this was invaluable for me to get a lot of this information. So essentially, any of the World's formats you want to revisit and just play on tabletop or play on Untap or even on PTGO for a lot of the sort of last few years of formats. If we look at like 18, 17, 2016, 2015 should be playable. 2014 should be difficult to get but playable, I believe. May not be. Let's make sure. Yeah, I think everything's playable here. Next Destiny's on. Yeah, it should be good to play. So there you go. A World's winning Vrisian Genesect here from Estrada. So literally I've just taken, at the moment, it's quite reductive. I've got I think I've tried to go for minimum 8 in every category. There are some formats that are more wide open than others, obviously, based on how many sets were in the format and whatnot and how dominant certain cards were. I've tried to go for big variety in almost every situation. If ever there's an interesting deck or something like that, even if it didn't do that well at necessarily the World Championships, if it's been a popular deck or a known deck in the format, for example, Pyro didn't do well at the World Championships, but was performing well at Nats and whatnot. I think Pram got a second place finish with it at Nats, and was this scary deck that had just come out because of Flashfire being a new set or whatever. I'm going to try and archive it as well. But this will be expanding. I think that's another thing that's amazing about this format is I can update this very easily on Cube Koga. It stores it all here for me, and it means that it can be this ongoing thing that just gets better and better as it goes, really. So yeah, just wanted to highlight this pretty short video today where we just look at the things that I've done so far. I'm also going to work on the next few things I want to work on is, if I just take away this worlds thing, I want to get the POG 2020 and 21 decks on here as well, and also I'll be doing some popular old formats which aren't necessarily Worlds formats, because Worlds formats are always great to look back on from a history perspective, but sometimes the best sort of gameplay elements have been found to be other formats besides Worlds. Like, for example, personally, I think that Burning Shadows, the Worlds format, was a far worse format than Primal Clash up to Guardians Rising. I think that was a much more interesting format to play in. So if I wanted to play that format, I can quite easily, thanks to me having these cubes already built essentially, I can copy paste those and then just take out the Burning Shadows cards, and then I can start building that exact format. So I do already have some in mind. MD to Col, HCSS to MVI, that should be Primal Clash to GRI, which I just mentioned, RS to PK, one of the favoured EX era options, Sun and Moon to Lost Thunder, and I'm also thinking of doing modern era stuff, whatever like the current sets are in format. I'm thinking of having this as well, just to update my own deck list, because this could also be a great way just to keep up to date and make changes, and then you can immediately export them straight onto whatever platform you want as well. So this doesn't have to be the sort of archive option. It could also be something to keep up with the meta and play on whichever thing you want to. So yeah, I think Cube Koga, again, it's something that I've talked about a lot already on the channel, that it's such an amazing website. But if you want to go ahead and try some of these things online, let me know what you think. If you're someone who has played in, especially the formats between 2004 and I would say around 2013 or so, that's where my knowledge is kind of weakest. I'm a student of the game, I'm always looking at these sorts of things, and I have played in the majority of these formats just casually, but that wasn't when I was a competitive player. So I have much more diverse knowledge about the more modern stuff, and I will easily be able to expand those decks portfolios as we go. At the moment, I just wanted to get something down on paper for every year of the format, where I've got, you know, at least 8 decks for everything, a bit of versatility in there, every now and then throwing in some context like NAIC based decks if it's not necessarily doing well at Worlds, and how people adapted from the NAIC. I think similar to David's, I want to do possibly a tier list, possibly just talk about the main decks in the format and what's the latest set brought to specifically that Worlds and how it adapted the format, because that's very much a story of the World Championships. We almost always are knee-jerk reacting. For example, looking at this format, NAIC, Trevenant was one of the most popular decks, but because an ETB came out in Generations that had a Shaman promo that healed your bench, like, it was a far less safe play for the World Championships, despite Trevenant being one of the top performers at national championships. And that's just sort of context that gets lost over the years. So having a place to sort of store all that information is really important. You can see I've actually, for Trevenant exactly, I've already made that little description about it, but it's something that I can have more concretely and more obviously done and better written and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to be putting a lot of time into this. As you can see, it's something that I am passionate about, and it's something that I think is just great to have. It's my own way of doing, you know, like the Jason Klaczynski blog or the PTCG archive, or whatever. It's my own sort of labor of love to the history of Pokemon, and it can be done, obviously, with my own personal touch. Is going to be important here and there. As you can see, I couldn't help myself but put in some of my own deck lists for this format. This was literally the World's deck that I played in 2016. Didn't do too well with it, but I did hit bad matchups, I'll tell you that for free. So it's going to be a really nice thing, and I think it should be a great way for people to practice, test, get to know the format. Obviously, it's free to play on OnTap. It's easy enough to play on tabletop, all that good stuff. And it's just going to be a great place to yoink some deck lists and just get gaming with friends. I think that's really awesome. And just for those who want to explore this format, as well as, you know, looking at just Limitless or PTCG Archive, it's just another method of doing so. So if you haven't engaged in any of these old formats, let me know. But I guess you should go ahead and try it out. If you are someone who has played these older formats, let me know which ones you would like to see me move on to next. I definitely have my eye on some extra things that are going to make this project ever larger and ever growing and non-stop. But that's essentially what I've been doing this last week. It's actually not taken as long as I expected. I think I can now start doing some tidying up, some house cleaning, some expanding of the decks in certain years that I think are more popular, or ones that I personally have better knowledge of. I think I can quite easily do that for some of the more recent years. And I can start making it more beginner friendly as well, where I go into detail about not just the first turn rules, but also why these cards are played, what their role is in the deck, and why they're some of the main decks of that era. So let me know your thoughts down below. Bit of a ramble today. I didn't really have a plan going into this video. I just wanted to talk about the project that I'm working on. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below if you have anything constructive that can improve on this, or if you're excited to even try it out. I'll hear it all down below, and I'll be back with normal content tomorrow. Cheers.